Okay, this is Orlando Wilson, and what I want to talk about in this video is how things you need to take into consideration if you are a close protection company or somebody that's freelancing and you're dealing with clients that have a threat on them or potential threats on them, and what you need to take into consideration to protect yourself. Now, to start off with, to make it clear to people, there's a lot of people in the security business and even in, we'll say they're in the close protection business, that don't deal with clients with threats on them. If they end up dealing with a client with a threat on them, they wouldn't know how to, they'd be scratching their ass, to put it politely, very politely. At some point, if you're serious about being in the close protection business, you're going to end up dealing with clients that do have threats on them. And the threats come from multiple directions, can come from plenty of weird and wonderful directions. Let me talk about a couple of things here I've bumped into over the years. The first thing, if you're dealing with a client that has threats from criminals, organized crime, what can you do to counter that? Well, it depends where you are. It depends. Again, everybody goes for the armed issue, whether you're carrying firearms, etc. Yeah, in places like the US, you can carry firearms, and a lot of other places you can't. Yes, there are countries in Europe you can access firearms, you can get firearms. But again, if you end up getting involved in the shooting, you're going to have big problems, big legal problems. The other thing you need to consider is if you're dealing with criminals that are well connected, they can just make a phone call and your firearms licenses can be suspended, your security licenses can be suspended, etc. So again, that's another thing you have to take into consideration. If you have a client that has a serious threat on them from organized crime or criminals, you need to liaise with the police. You need to keep a dossier of whatever's going on, whatever threats have come in, etc. This is where the investigation skills come in. And again, you need to liaise with the police to some extent, even if the police are corrupt. Because in a lot of places, you could be talking to the police and the police will be talking to the criminals. This is where you have to consider as well, not only the issues, the business issues of threats to your business, as I said, from licensing, etc., threats to the client, but also threats to you and your family. I know of a couple of cases. One comes to mind. An associate of mine bumped into a long time ago in Eastern Europe. He was dealing with a client, with political client, organized crime. People wanted to get access to that client. They didn't like some of the things he was doing. So the first people they contacted was not the client, not their target, but the wives of the bodyguards, the wives of the security team. Why? Because they know if they take away the security team, if they take away the security, they've got access to the client. They were softening things up so they could get to the client and talk to the client. If you have a security company that's providing, from a criminal perspective, if you have a security company that's providing security for somebody you want to get to, if you get rid of the head of that security company or get rid of their licenses or cause too many problems, they'll walk away. You have access to your target. Simple, right? So this is where, from a perspective of if you're dealing with organized crime, you have to expect problems from possibly the police, and also from the criminals themselves. You have to be able to protect yourself and protect your family, protect your assets, protect your business interests, etc. Now, the other angle on this, I'll just throw this one in here. If you're dealing with a client that has issues with local government, politicians, etc. Well, in a lot of places, the first thing the politician's going to do, and this happens as well in a lot of first world countries. I know cases where this has happened I'll give you one example. I know of one case in Western Europe, in a country that has a name that sounds like Belgium, where a client of mine I've been working with now for a long time is involved in a big insurance claim, and there's been a lot of funky stuff going on. A lot of private investigators have been up to no good. There's been debt collection issues which have been very questionable. There's been complaints put in of doctors maltreating patients, which I've witnessed, and nothing's happened. Are the police corrupt? Are the police just incompetent? Are the police lazy? I'll say yes. But again, that client that person has had a lot of problems, down to, I take it there's a lot of issues at play. So this is where, if you're dealing with a client that has political issues, you can expect problems. You can expect them to have problems. You can expect the police to turn the blind eye to a lot of things that's going on. In some places, you can expect, if you're licensed, your license is to have issues, to be inspected by the authorities, etc., to be audited by tax officials, etc. This is where, from a service provider perspective, if you're dealing with that type of client, you'd have to know how to protect yourself. You have to expect that people are going to mess with you. And you need to ensure that you've got everything tight. You can take it for granted that people will come to mess with you and, again, try to audit you, etc., mess with your licenses, but you need to make sure everything you're doing is tight. You're not going to give them an opening or any leverage so they can mess with you, mess with your business, etc. If everything you're doing is, again, if you take these jobs, make sure everything you're doing is 100% legal. If the authorities are coming after you, if the authorities are harassing you, you need to keep a log of when they turn up, what they're doing, etc., etc. And when it gets to the point where you can prove beyond any reasonable doubt that you're being harassed, then I would counter. And I would start putting the complaints in that, yes, I'm being harassed. We're being harassed because we're dealing with this client, etc. Everything we're doing is legal, but we're being screwed with by the police, tax people, etc., etc., etc. You have to counter, because that will keep people, it will show people you're not playing. But to counter, you need evidence. So a lot of this stuff is not so much about muscle, it's about gathering evidence on the people that's messing with you. And again, kicking back, I should have said in the beginning, if you're dealing with criminals and there are criminal threats, again, you need evidence, because again, you need to build a file up on all the threats. Again, this is where your investigation skills come in, all the incidents, etc. Because again, that needs to be regularly presented to the police to say, look, we got a problem, you need to help us, you need to arrest these guys, etc. But this is just a short video for a very complex subject. But if you're dealing with clients that have threats on them, especially if it's from criminals or they're political, you can expect to get messed with yourself. This is where you have to know how to protect yourself and make sure you got procedures in place so you can protect yourself, your business, and your family, because you can expect to get screwed with. I hope this video gives you a few things to think about. I've got more videos up online on YouTube, on social media, etc., talking about security investigations, etc. So follow us along. Also, I've got an array of books online that can answer a lot of your questions, everything from kidnap and ransom, threat assessments, close protection, etc. So follow us along on social media. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're also now doing virtual consultancies. If you're a client, or if you've got problems, feel free to reach out to us. We can give you business advice, etc. And again, these days with a lot of the messaging apps, if you need immediate assistance, all you have to do is drop a message. So be good, stay safe, and stay out of trouble.